Your entire career as a software engineer is on a collision course with AI. You can either become obsolete or you can become 10 times more valuable. That choice is being made right now, and the window is closing fast. For the last year, you've been fed a lie that the only way to survive is to become a math PhD, to throw away a decade of experience building real systems and start over. That is completely and totally false. The counterintuitive truth is that 70% of a real AI engineering job is core software engineering. Your ability to design APIs, manage databases, and deploy reliable code is precisely what companies are desperate for. This video is the 6-month plan for the other 30%, the part that gets you the title and the salary to match. And let's talk about that salary. According to the 2025 DICE Tech Salary Report, professionals who build AI solutions command a 17.7% higher salary. That means for the exact same level of seniority, the engineer next to you who can build with AI is making almost 20% more than you are. This isn't a promotion, it's a new price tag for your existing skills. And with Gartner reporting that by 2026, over 80% of all enterprises will be using GenAI, this isn't a trend, it's the new standard. But our plan doesn't start with code. Your first mission for this week is to develop LLM intuition. Before you write a single line of code, go to a playground like ChatGPT or Claude. Take a function you wrote at work today, something you know inside and out. Ask the model to explain it. Ask it to refactor it. Ask it to find subtle bugs. Then push its limits. Give it logic puzzles. See where it excels and where it completely falls apart. Your goal is to get a feel for the machine's mind, to understand its power in pattern recognition and its glaring weakness in multi-step reasoning. This intuition is the true foundation. Have you had that aha moment with an LLM yet, where it genuinely surprised you with its capability? Let me know with a yes or not yet in the comments. I want to see where you are on this journey. But a feeling won't get you hired, a project will. And 99% of the projects that matter use one single powerful pattern. The vast majority of real-world generative AI value is not built by training massive models from scratch. That's a game for a handful of giant companies. The real value, the work that companies are hiring for right now, is in connecting those powerful models to private proprietary data. This pattern is called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG, and mastering it is your key to getting hired. The architecture sounds incredibly complex. You hear terms like vector databases, embeddings, context windows, and chunking strategies. It feels just as intimidating as the PhD level math you thought you had to learn. So let's simplify it right now. We are going to build the hello world of practical Gen AI, a question and answer bot that works over your own resume. This single project will teach you the entire end-to-end process that powers enterprise AI applications. The language is Python. It's the undisputed standard with a universe of libraries that do the heavy lifting for you. Your first task is data ingestion. You'll use a powerful open source framework called LlamaIndex, specifically version 0.14.15. With just a few lines of code, LlamaIndex can load your resume PDF, read it, and break it down into manageable chunks, like tearing a long document into individual paragraphs. This step is critical because language models have a limited attention span, a context window, and we need to feed them only the most relevant information. Second, you need to give your application a memory. This is where vector databases come in. Think of a vector database as a librarian who's a mind reader. A normal database finds the exact word you search for. A vector database finds what you mean. You'll use a service like Pinecone, which offers a generous free tier on its serverless plan. You take each chunk of your resume, and an AI model converts its meaning into a list of numbers called an embedding. You then store these embeddings in Pinecone. This isn't just search, it's a conversation with your data. There are a ton of great vector databases out there besides Pinecone, like Weaviate version 1.36.2. What are you using or experimenting with? Drop your recommendations below. Let's help each other find the best tools. Third, you tie it all together with a simple Python script. This is the core logic. When a user asks, "What was my main responsibility at my last job?" your script does three things. First, It takes that question and asks Pinecone to find the top 3 most relevant chunks from your resume. Then it constructs a new prompt to send to a powerful model like Claude Opus 4.5 or ChatGPT 5.2. That prompt looks something like this. Using only the following information from a resume, answer the user's question. The information is, paste the chunks from Pinecone. The user's question is, paste the original question. The model then reads the context you provided and gives you a perfect, accurate answer based only on the data from your resume. And that's it. In just a few hours of work, you've built a complete RAG pipeline. You've learned how to ingest data, embed it, store it in a specialized database, retrieve it based on meaning, and use it to give a language model the exact context it needs to do useful work. You have now built the fundamental pattern behind the majority of Gen AI applications in the world. You've built something real. But before we turn this into a portfolio piece that gets you hired, we need to talk about the single biggest mistake that gets experienced engineers like Alex rejected. Meet Alex. He's a senior backend engineer, 10 years of experience, and absolutely brilliant. When generative AI exploded, he did what any smart, disciplined engineer would do. He decided to go back to the fundamentals. He thought, to master this, I need to understand it from the ground up. So he bought textbooks on linear algebra. He dove into research papers on the transformer architecture. He spent his nights and weekends studying the deep theory behind how these models work. For 6 months, he worked tirelessly. But when he started interviewing for Gen AI roles, something devastating happened. They didn't ask him about matrix multiplication. They didn't quiz him on the intricacies of self-attention mechanisms. They asked him one simple question over and over again. What have you built? And Alex, despite all his knowledge, had to admit he had built nothing. He had a head full of theory and an empty GitHub repository. Alex fell into the trap that brilliant engineers always fall into. He thought the answer was more knowledge. But the market doesn't pay for knowledge, it pays for application. He wasn't just studying the wrong things, he was playing a completely different game. Your goal is not to invent the next GPT 5.2. Your goal is to be an engineer. Your job is to take these powerful pre-existing tools and apply them to solve real-world business problems. Be honest with yourself. Which camp are you in right now? Team Alex focused on theory or Team Builder focused on application? There's no wrong answer, but it's a powerful question to ask. Let me know in the comments. This is where the brutal truth of the market becomes your single greatest opportunity. A 2025 report from MIT dropped a bombshell on the industry. 95% of organizations are getting zero financial return from their GenAI projects. That's not a typo. 95%. Trillions in market cap and almost no one is making it work. And why? It's not because they lack people who understand transformer theory. It's because they lack engineers who can connect the technology to their workflows and deliver measurable impact. They are struggling with the exact problems you've spent your career solving. In fact, another 2025 survey found that the number one challenge for engineers in AI deployment is simply data quality. That's an engineering problem, not a science problem. The companies that are failing with Gen AI aren't failing because they lack theorists. They're failing because they lack seasoned engineers who can build reliable, data-driven systems. That is your opening. You must avoid Alex's trap. Focus 90% of your learning time on application, on building RAG systems and simple agents, and only 10% on the deep theory. Build things. Solve problems. That is what gets you hired. So let's build something that gets you hired. Something that makes a hiring manager stop scrolling and say, this person gets it. This is where your years of experience as a software engineer become your unfair advantage. This is phase 2, months 3 and 4. And it's where we go from a simple prototype to a professional portfolio piece. The big question you're probably asking is, how do I make this simple script reliable enough that a business could actually depend on it? How do I handle different environments, dependencies, and turn it into a real application? The answer is, you use the tools you already know and love. You don't just write a Python script. You containerize it with Docker to create a reproducible environment. You don't just print an answer to the console, you build a clean API around it with Fast API so other services can call it. You write integration tests to ensure it's reliable. You're not just a Gen AI scripter, You are a Gen AI system architect. This is the moment you stop looking like a beginner and start looking like a senior leader. Here is your 4-point checklist to upgrade your project. First, containerize your entire application with Docker. Gen AI projects are notorious for dependency hell. By using Docker, you prove to hiring managers that you know how to build applications that are portable, scalable, and work the same way on your machine as they do in production. Second, add a simple fast API frontend. This transforms your command line script into a real network accessible service. It's the difference between a hobby project and a professional microservice. Third, use a framework like LangChain version 1.2.10 to give your application a new power, the ability to use tools. You'll evolve your simple Q&A bot into an agent that can, for example, answer a question about your resume and also check a live weather API to tell the user the current temperature. This is also where you show sophisticated thinking about model selection. For a complex reasoning task like this, you might choose the hypothetical GPT 5-2. But if your original RAG project was over a massive book, you'd highlight why Claude Opus 4.5's large context window was the better choice. This demonstrates product thinking, not just coding. Finally, put the entire project on GitHub with a professional detailed README file. Explain the architecture, the setup instructions, and the business problem it solves. This is your sales document for hiring managers. Here's a challenge for you. Take the project we just outlined and write a one-sentence summary for a README framed as a business problem. Post your best one in the comments. I'll review them. The demand for these skills is exploding. Job postings requiring generative AI skills surged to nearly 10,000 by May 2025. And as of early 2026, 97% of all software development organizations are either actively using or evaluating AI. They aren't just looking for prompt engineers, they are looking for system builders. They are looking for you. But they won't find you if you're hiding. The final 2 months are not about learning new technology, they're about marketing. You are the product, and it's time to launch. How do you stand out when it feels like every software engineer on LinkedIn has suddenly added AI enthusiast to their headline? How do you cut through the noise and prove you're the real deal? You do it by changing the entire frame of the conversation. You don't just say, I built a RAG app. You say, I leveraged my 10 years of backend expertise to architect a containerized, API driven RAG system that solves a critical business problem. See the difference? You are not a beginner learning AI. You are a senior software engineer who has integrated AI into your core skill set to deliver more value. This reframing is what makes the transition from software engineer to AI engineer look seamless and inevitable. That is the 70-30 principle in action, and it's how you win. This framing needs to be everywhere. Your LinkedIn summary, your resume, and how you talk about your project in interviews. Your resume bullet points shouldn't just list technologies. They should tell a story of impact. Use this formula. Architected and deployed a Docker containerized Gen AI application using LlamaIndex and Pinecone to provide natural language Q&A over corporate financial documents. Creating a prototype to reduce research time for analysts. It connects your existing skills with your new ones to solve a business problem. This is what companies are paying a premium for. Enterprise spending on generative AI surged to $37 billion in 2025. That money isn't just for models, it's for engineers who can build the systems around them, and the salaries reflect that demand. According to ZipRecruiter data from March 2026, the average annual pay for a generative AI engineer in the US is $131,000, with top earners reaching $190,000 and some roles pushing past $200,000. This isn't a theoretical number, it's the market rate for the skills you now possess. 6 months ago, your career was at a crossroads: become obsolete or become 10 times more valuable. Today, you see the path. This journey was never about becoming a different person. It was about becoming a more powerful version of the engineer you already are, applying the 70% of the skills you've mastered to the crucial new 30%. The only thing left is the first step. Your journey doesn't start tomorrow by signing up for a course. It starts tonight, in the next 5 minutes. Open a playground like ChatGPT or Claude. Find the ugliest, most convoluted function you wrote this week and give the AI this one simple prompt. Make this elegant. That's it. Watch what happens. That feeling you get, that's the beginning of everything.